Okay, welcome to another episode of Legion of Reason Diversion. I am your host, the Supreme Irreverent Dr. Randy Tyson, and I'm here with my co-hosts. I was going to say Sheldon. You're a guest co-host tonight, but we have with us Twyla and not at the moment. I'll have to bring Twyla in, and we have, of course, the internally misogynized Christine. And so today we have with us Sheldon Helms from the ShelShocked podcast, and we're going to have a discussion about gay conversion therapy. And so Sheldon, tell us a bit about yourself while I busy myself getting Twyla in.
Okay, well, my name is Sheldon Helms, and I am the host of ShelShocked podcast on science and skepticism. My day job is that I am a professor of experimental psychology at Ohlone College in Fremont, California. And I'm also a former member of the Bay Area Skeptics Board, and I run a speaker series there at the college, and I'm good friends with James the Amazing Randy, and I've done some work for the JREF, and I'm just an all-around skeptic.
Yeah, good. Awesome. So the subject of, for tonight is gay conversion therapy. Tell us a bit about it. I mean, I think it's pretty self-explanatory, but probably a lot more baggage in there than the name implies.
Yeah, there's a lot of baggage. I need an electrical cord, honey. Sorry, my computer's dying. The electrical cord. Sorry about that. That's very unprofessional of me, but I've been fighting with Skype all night. So yeah, gay conversion therapy is a series of quasi-religious and pseudoscientific therapies designed to turn gay people straight. It's gone by a lot of different names: gay to straight therapy, reparative therapy. The most recent one is SOCI, which is sexual orientation change efforts. Jeez. And yeah, they were up all night thinking of that one. Basically, they try to make gay people become straight, and it is highly ineffective, except in one way, which is to make people feel shame and depression, and to make them prone to suicide.
When I think of gay conversion therapy, I immediately go to the Bachmans.
Yeah, good old Michelle Bachman.
Yeah, her husband anyway. I can't remember his name.
Mary? No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
That's hitting below the belt. I'm sorry for that. Yeah.
That's very homophobic of you.
Yeah.
It was, but I'm allowed, right?
Yep, totally.
Yeah, they're a joke, except that they're not a joke. You know, they make about $150,000 a year from our Social Security system, Medicare really? Specifically. Yeah, doing all kinds of so-called marriage therapy. But there were some people from, I believe it was the Human Rights Campaign, who sent in a hidden camera on a backpack and busted them for doing gay conversion therapy, which they claimed they did not do.
Right.
So they're using government money to do this therapy that is highly ineffective.
Well, I wouldn't just, yeah, I wouldn't say it's just not effective, but it implies that there is something wrong with being gay. And,
that's right.
And obviously this has religion written all over it.
Absolutely, yeah. There are actually two books that are the problem. One is the Bible, and the other is the DSM, which is the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders. Until the early 1970s, homosexuality was listed in the DSM as a mental disorder. And that change was huge. It was earth-shaking. There was a guy named Spitzer who changed it, a psychiatrist who was the chair of the board of the DSM at the time. And he made that change partly because of gay groups here in the U.S. that were lobbying for it, and partly because the researchers couldn't show any evidence that gay people were any more prone to mental illness than anybody else. And that had been going on for 25 years at the time. So we're still reverberating from that. But when you look at these groups that claim to be therapists, and they are, unfortunately, they are trained, licensed psychiatrists, psychologists, and therapists, their rules and their steps that they use are very religious indeed.
Yeah.
Are we, when you're talking about steps, are we talking about the 12 steps?
Well, you know, it's interesting. It modeled itself kind of after the 12 steps, but you should see the steps. They're pretty goofy steps. There's a guy named Joseph Nicolosi who died recently, but he's one of those people that you're not really all that concerned that he's gone. He came up with something called the Nicolosi method, which involves, I think there are 12, no, there are 11 steps. So there are, you know, things like praying and avoiding women unless it's for romantic contact. Of course, not going to operas or plays or anything, you know, homosexual like that. And believe it or not, language therapy, where they teach men to call each other bro and dude. And that will make you want women.
Wow. It does it?
Wow. Wow.
I wouldn't want the women to, yeah, ew.
Yeah, the whole thing's pretty gross. You know, the first one, the most successful one here in the U.S. that got organized was a group called Exodus International. They started in the early 1970s. It was the brainchild of a man named Michael Bussey. He actually called a suicide hotline at a local church, partly because he was, you know, unhappy with his own homosexuality, and he was a devout Christian. And what came from that was Exodus International, which was very successful indeed. They had, you know, multi-million-dollar foundation. They had over 170 local chapters in the U.S. and Canada, 150 ministries in 17 other countries, and they brought in millions of dollars. Bussey and Gary Cooper, who were the two leaders of that group, didn't last long with the group. They only lasted about 3 years because they ended up falling in love, breaking away from the group, and having a commitment ceremony.
Wow.
Wow.
So
wow.
They haven't been very successful in keeping their leadership. That has happened on more than one occasion. There was a man named John Polk who was a leader who took them to the multi-million-dollar status. He was even on the cover of Newsweek magazine back in the late 1990s. But by the year 2000, someone from the Human Rights Campaign found him in a bar, a gay bar called Mr. P's in Washington, D.C., chatting up the bartender and some of the patrons. So when they came in and took pictures of him, he was fired within a few days. So this is what happens over and over again as the leadership comes in. They claim to be ex-gays. They champion the cause, and then they get busted.
I was wondering if Ted Haggard ever went to one of these things. I mean, it was.
I don't know a whole lot about Haggard. I know he had his own problems with substance abuse and men. So
yeah, he did. Apparently, he said that, you know, over a weekend he was cured, but
yeah,
whatever that means.
I don't want that.
Yeah, I think it's kind of dubious. It's kind of like when Hooters was had their airline and they were, you know, trained over a weekend. It's like, oh great!
Oh wow!
Oh, wow! I didn't even hear about that. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Huh. Wow.
Yeah, that was
That's
pretty. That didn't live very long.
Yeah,
But,
I bet. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you may get a kick out of this. Exodus actually shut down a couple of years ago, officially. It was for a while. It was led by Alan Chambers, who replaced Polk after a while. He and his ex-lesbian wife, and they were on a program. I don't know if you have it there in Canada. It's called Our America. It's on the Oprah Winfrey Network.
Oh gosh.
No, we have it. I don't watch it.
Okay, well, it's very
I'm
kind of
sure it would be
schmaltzy.
called that, right? So. Yeah.
But, you know, there's a really hard-hitting reporter on there named Lisa Ling, and I actually like her a lot. She went to talk to Alan Chambers a few years back and asked him some really tough questions that he thought about for a long time, and asked her to come back and do another interview with him because he had an important announcement. And that announcement, believe it or not, was that they were shutting down Exodus International. He said because of the questions that she asked him and a lot of soul searching, he decided that they were shutting down. So this was heralded around the globe as, you know, Exodus is dead. Ding dong, the witch is dead. I was not so happy. I was suspicious. So I kept watching their website because, you know, these things don't die easily. They're kind of the multi-headed hydra. When you're bringing in millions and millions of dollars like that, you don't just close up shop, you know. Not
Especially
easily.
if you're evangelizing in other countries and stuff like that, right?
Oh, yeah, that would be crazy. So I kept checking their website. For a while, it had some. His apology was on there. He also eventually put on there that you could buy his new book, of course. And then it changed to something called Speak Love. And it was pretty ambiguous. They were saying, well, we're not sure what we're going to be in the future, but there will always be gay and lesbian people who don't want to live a gay and lesbian lifestyle, whatever the hell that means. I was doing laundry earlier. I guess that's the gay lifestyle for tonight.
Yeah.
Quiche. Do you eat quiche?
No, I don't. I think it's disgusting. I guess I am.
Oh, there you go.
So I kept watching their website, and then one day, a few weeks after their so-called shutdown, I checked their website, and a strange message came up that said, this website for sale. So I bought it.
Oh.
So now if you try to go to ExodusInternationalNorthAmerica.org, you don't find Alan Chambers or his group. You find a video of me giving a talk on gay conversion therapy.
Nice. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, we have to post a link. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, that was
I'll
great.
do that, yeah.
I'm sure they're pretty pissed about that.
Well, that's what happens when you let it's not the first time somebody's let a web site name lapse. And did get picked up by somebody else, and it gets pretty funny. I can't think of any examples offhand, but I've heard some really funny ones. So this must have a lot of religious backing. And what is the impetus behind all of this?
Well, the Bible's pretty clear on homosexuality in the Old Testament and the New Testament. We're going to burn in hell. So it makes sense, of course, that, these are well-meaning people when you think about it. I don't mean people who are leading these organizations. I can't say that about them. But I can say it about the parents who take their kids to these places, and that's primarily their victims is youth. Unlike being black or being Jewish in most cases, you're not born into a family that's like you if you're gay or lesbian or bi or trans. You're generally born into a family of heterosexuals. So, no black person has to come out as black to their parents, right? Yeah. So there's this process that you have to go through, and parents are terrified. And I understand that terror because they've been told their whole lives by a homophobic society that there's something wrong with you if you're gay, or that you're going to contract AIDS, or that you'll have a terrible life of debauchery and drug addiction. And that's a common theme you hear with leaders of these organizations. They say things like the gay lifestyle, and what they really mean is that they were so unhappy that they ended up becoming addicted to drugs, or they were promiscuous and uncareful or something like that. So they equate that with being gay. And so I think, I hesitate to say this, but I think in many cases it's good intentions. People want their kids to be happy and healthy. And so if they think that this is going to help, then they take them to these organizations. I have to draw the line, though, at cases like one of them I talk about in my talk is a man named Sam Brenton. Sam Brenton was the son of itinerant preachers, and he told his parents everything. He was very close with them, and he said that one day some young men brought a Playboy magazine, a nudie magazine, to their circle of friends, and he was maybe 15 or 16 at the time. And he said, I felt really righteous telling my parents, I looked at that magazine too, but I didn't feel anything at all. And his father said, what? And he said, well, if I'm honest, though, sometimes I have feelings like that about my friend Gabe or something like that. And he said Gabe was a boy. And he said, the next thing I know, I woke up in a hospital. Oh. And he said, I had apparently fallen down the stairs, and he would fall down the stairs many times after that at the hands of his father. Wow. So his mother, in an effort to save him from this abuse, apparently took him to a man that she thought would help him. And the moment they got behind closed doors, this man who was some kind of doctor or something, he said, Sam, you're the last one. All the other gay people have died. God killed them with AIDS. And if we don't help you, God's going to kill you too. So this started a weeks-long process of what can only be called torture, starting out with ice cubes, large blocks of ice, that is, put on his hands and making him look at homosexual literature or videos or whatever to make his hands really cold. Aversion therapy, exactly. That didn't work, so then they wrapped coils around his hands, wire coils, and attached those to a car battery, and they would heat it up to cause him pain whenever he looked at same-sex images. And when that didn't work, the last few days involved inserting needles underneath his fingernails and attaching those to a car battery. So, when I say that parents have good intentions, I hesitate because I think about Sam Brinton's mother sitting in the hallway listening to him scream, being tortured, and not rushing in to save her child.
No, it's not torture. It's just enhanced interrogation.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
And I get, like she was trying to save him from another form of abuse by his own father, right? Like,
yeah,
it's so fucked up.
Yeah, really screwed up situation. It's certainly not one that most Christians think of as being Christian.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So
Sam survived all of that. He does have psychological and emotional issues as a result. He says that he's sometimes suicidal, that he's prone to depression. He says sometimes when a friend will hug him, like if another man even puts his arm around his shoulder or touches him or shakes hands with him, sometimes he still feels that electric shock.
Wow.
Yeah, lasting effect, but not on his sexual orientation.
Yeah. So much for the lifestyle hypothesis. I mean, and that's that's a big thing. I'm pretty sure I know where that comes from. I mean, if God can't make people gay, so it must be a choice somehow.
That's what it boils down to. I mean, I do hear some people in the gay community who say pretty adamantly, well, it doesn't matter. And I understand where they're coming from. It shouldn't matter because your sex life isn't, doesn't determine whether you're a good person. If you're consenting adults, monogamous or otherwise, it doesn't make you a good or bad person. But I think it is important in the end, because as long as people think that homosexuality is a choice, then they will think you've made the wrong choice, and they will try to make you make the right choice. But I think there's something to be said for the science of sexual orientation, telling people you're born this way. Mm-hmm. And, we verified this in hundreds of species, not just humans.
Studies. There's studies that now, verify you don't choose your sexuality. You also don't choose the lifestyle. As if you are gay, not all gay people choose a poly, drug-filled, alcohol-filled lifestyle. I know a lot of gay people that are just monogamous, normal, everyday people.
Yeah, I would add in, and I'm sure you misspoke there, I would add in that poly people are also in normal relationships, but I understand
quiet, not full of drugs. But everybody assumes that gay people have orgies for some reason when they talk about this gay lifestyle, right? Like, non-gay people do too. I mean, but not all gay people, right? And not all.
I wasn't invited to.
Yeah, it's like I'm missing out. Well, and then
I wasn't invited
the assumption that atheists all have orgies.
Well, hasn't this happened in the Vatican or in Rome? With a lot of the priests having these huge gay parties,
having an orgy,
and it's. So
it's a priest's fault they come up with this stereotype.
Yeah, well, they come up with another one too, unfortunately.
Yeah. Priests are also problematic. I should say child molesting priests are problematic in that people often conflate homosexuality with child abuse.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
So, it's interesting to me that maybe because so many of the reports are male priests, having sex with young boys, prepubescent.
But those are pedophiles, not homosexuals. Those are pedophiles. Right. There's a difference.
Right. There's a huge difference, yeah. And but speaking of this, by the way, let me tell you really quickly about a guy named Richard Cohn. Richard Cohn followed the Nicolosi method that I was telling you about, that ridiculous 11-step, 12-step program. And he, I have a video that I show of him beating a pillow with a tennis racket and calling it his mother. It's the most bizarre thing you've ever seen. He was a gay man. I think he still is a gay man, but he's married to a woman now and has kids. And he joined the Moonies for a while. You familiar with the Moonies?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, heard of it. Yeah.
Unification Church. And he, it was an arranged marriage. He started his own group, and he is the popularizer of holding therapy, where he takes a grown man into his arms and holds him as a method of therapy. Now, that's questionable by any standards, But he was part of the Wesleyan healing community and back in the 1980s, so I guess that makes sense. But he's written all these really horrible books that, I recently told the CFI that they should give me some kind of award for reading all this crap.
Oh, yeah.
I've read all of the books that he's written, but the one that horrifies me the most is called Alfie's Home, and it's a children's book, an illustrated children's book, in which he explains that the reason that people become a homosexual is because they are molested as children. And he even has pictures, I should say, illustrations of a little boy in bed with his uncle being molested.
Oh, geez.
Well, how tasteless is it? Oh.
It's horrific.
So
Even if you believe that, why would you put that
yeah.
in a book for children? It's just...
Well, that, and how do they prove that all children who are molested grow up gay? They don't. I'm not.
Of course not. And I'm sorry that anybody has to go through that, but it is ridiculous to think that there's any correlation there at all. But, these people aren't rocket scientists.
So, does that, it seems to me, I heard about this from a religious person, like in around maybe the 60s, there was some German movement of, like, I guess similar to what NAMBLA is now, right? That's that, what do you call it, John?
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
I know what NAMBLA
Child love group.
Yeah, and
they,
My introduction to NAMBLA
was
was South Park.
Oh, hey, they raise awareness.
That's
but
true.
did they not try to, they wanted to align themselves with the LGBTQ community and have them, add like what the fuck? No. But, I don't know what to say about how that helps perpetuate that nonsense, right?
Yeah, we certainly don't want to align ourselves with NAMBLA or anyone like that.
Yeah.
No, nobody does. Yeah.
I told you earlier about Sam Brinton, being essentially tortured. Believe it or not, there are even worse stories than that. One of them that I include in my talk is the story of a young man named Raymond Buys. He was a 15-year-old South African kid whose parents thought that he was too effeminate, and they wanted to toughen him up because they were afraid he was gay. So they sent him to this thing called the Echo Wild Game Rangers camp, which makes men out of boys. And this poor kid, for some reason, he spent 2.5 months at the camp, and for some reason they chose him for particular ill treatment. Once he was released from there, he was a shell of his former self. He was hospitalized, malnourished, dehydrated. His arm was broken in several places. There were burns and cigarette burns and wounds all over his body. One of his fellow camp members there said that they used to tie him to the bed, put a bag over his head, and shock him with a cattle prod. They even made his own feces. And he languished for 2 weeks in the hospital, and he died.
Was anybody charged?
The two leaders, one was charged immediately, and the other one was later charged. They were taken to court, and they were given very light sentences. But the people of South Africa rose up and demanded justice, and so they re-sentenced those men to large prison sentences. Of course, that doesn't bring Raymond back. It also wasn't good for them that a few years earlier, there had been 2 other deaths at the camp of young men. Those deaths had been deemed heart attacks, but these were 18 and 19-year-old boys. So it's highly unlikely that it was heart attacks. So they exhumed the bodies, and they found that they had actually died of strangulation.
Oh, so it was outright murder.
They were charged with murder. Yeah.
Yeah, South Africa has a kind of a dark history. I mean, at the 10th floor of the police station in Johannesburg, a lot of suicides, people being thrown out the window.
Wow.
And,
it's pretty dark, especially here in the U.S. We've got Mike Pence, who's second in command, and people keep calling for Donald Trump to be impeached. But I tell you what, the backup team is even worse.
Well, you have them all now, and you have this backup team kind of in the background, but there's still power. Like, it's the Republican Party. It's absolutely repugnant.
Yeah, Mike Pence is 10 times worse, in my opinion, because he actually knows how government works. Trump doesn't seem to know, so he doesn't get a lot of his stuff done. But Mike Pence is so homophobic. I think he gets a 0 on the Human Rights Campaign website, 0%. Mm-hmm. So he's severely anti-LGBT. While he was running for office back in 2000, he actually suggested that funds should be taken away from HIV/AIDS prevention and be given to gay conversion therapy.
Yep, that's kind of he'll step in, he'll do the votes, he'll get votes his way, he'll step in and break ties. I mean, he's getting stuff done. Yeah, and it's horrible.
Yeah, we don't want him as president, though. I think.
Let's hope he goes down with. I mean, who in that party is not absolutely disgusting?
Well, we won't see them as long as Trump is in office, because Trump is choosing the absolute worst people for every single position, in my opinion.
Exactly. Really, it's a disaster from beginning to end, and the next 4 years are going to set back USA decades.
I agree.
Well, the thing is, the Republican Party hasn't learned. I mean, look who they field. They're always extremely right-wing, extremely religious, at least ostensibly so. And I don't see any end to this in the Republican Party.
Yeah, no. It seems to get worse every day.
And Pence, there's another Pence out around every corner.
Mm-hmm. So you guys are stuck for the States is stuck for the next screwed. 4 years with absolute horrifying.
I hesitate to add, you're screwed too.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, we have to deal with you guys.
Cross-border screwing. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. It takes our economy with it.
Hey, don't blame me. I voted for Hillary.
Yeah.
Don't blame me. Mm-mm.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of politics on the political landscape with this conversion therapy stuff, we're seeing some progress. We've got a handful of states who've passed laws against this. I think 9 states so far, which is great. But I'd like to see a lot more. I'd like to see a federal ban. These laws don't really go far enough. They only apply to those under the age of 18, and they only apply to licensed therapists. So a minister, a priest, a rabbi could still do this to anyone. And anyone over the age of 18 can still subject her or himself to this.
Well, does anybody willingly go into these programs?
Because they're taught. You're brainwashed that there is something wrong with you, so you want to go get it fixed.
That's right.
So
I'm glad to see this law because it starts where the biggest need is, which is with youth, because most people are dragged there by their parents. But there are still plenty of stories that I've heard of adults going there. They come out of marriages, they come out of churches, and they're told something's wrong with you, so they go there to try to fix it. A lot of them probably come out relatively unscathed, but it is a waste of their time and money. But there are a lot of others that, it's hard to track this stuff too. Someone was asking me at a conference recently, what are the numbers like? How many are there? And I said, well, it's kind of like Alcoholics Anonymous. It's anonymous. There's no way to track this statistically, but we do know that there are plenty of stories. And one of the things that I'm doing right now, in addition to spreading the word at various conferences, is trying to collect enough stories to write a book. There have been books that have talked about this in the past, but they really just cover the organizations. They cover sometimes the pseudotherapies, but they don't tell the stories behind the scenes. And so that's what I want to do, is let people, include the narrative of the casualties.
And what they're told and the horrible things they're told about themselves.
Yeah, I think, humans are storytellers, right? I mean, we sat around the campfire for tens of thousands of years. So it's all well and good to have the dry statistics and to tell the history. But I think we need to have the individual stories as well, so that people can speak their truth and people will know, what the results are.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Yeah. So how active are these organizations? Are they getting more prevalent, or are they sort of
the smaller grassroots ones? They're very difficult to track, and they kind of are little hot spots. They'll crop up for a while. There's actually one nearby, a church just about 10 miles from where I live. They hide it under the guise of having singles night.
Oh.
And so, yeah, you show up for the singles night and they kind of, take you off into a corner and say, we've got this special program just for you.
That's typical church tactics. They got me as a kid. They had free popcorn, and you went in to watch this movie about the end of the world and how
I can so relate.
Are going to hell. Yeah.
I was raised by a Jew and an atheist, yet I still got caught up in the Christian church down the street because they had chocolate milk.
They
get you. No. They know how to bait people.
Actually, my daughter had Christian friends, and they had kind of like a loyalty points program or something where you could,
loyalty.
Like I tolerated my daughter going to this, and she, it wasn't exactly something she was thrilled with anyway, but I'm just like, wow, that's pretty good bribery, right? Like,
unabashed. I'll tell you a little story if you have the time about how I almost got caught up in one of these. And it's only in retrospect that I realized what it was. After I started doing the research on these organizations, I kind of put two and two together and thought, well, son of a bitch, I think it happened to me too. Like a lot of gay kids, I like to sing. So when my friend in high school suggested that I come and sing at her church with her, and she had an amazing voice, I jumped at the chance, and her mother would take us every Sunday, and I didn't care about any of the Jesus stuff, but I went. And after a few weeks of this, the pastor asked me if I would stay after, and I said sure. And the youth pastor was there as well, and he was kind of cute, so I said yes. So I was maybe 15 or 16 years old. So they said, well, come with us. And so I parted ways from my friend and her mother, and they took me to this trailer that was in the back parking lot. And I kid you not, there was a bare swinging light bulb. So it didn't bode well. So I walked in and I said, what are we doing here? And they said, well, we need to talk to you because we feel like there's something you should tell us. I thought, no. And I thought, oh God, they're going to hit me up for the Jesus thing. And like, I have to, admit that I believe in him and all that stuff. That's where I thought they were going with it. But they kept on. And they said, no, it's something personal. It's something about you. And we really think you need to tell us and tell God. And I was just at a loss of time. Thought I really got nothing. And so they said, well, we don't want to sound rude, but until you do, you shouldn't come back.
Fine. Jerks.
So I walked. I think they did me a favor.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
But I'm about 99% sure what they were getting at was they wanted me to admit that I was gay. And I can't help thinking, what would have been the next step?
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, try to convince you. Yeah, if they're going to say you have to admit this to God, like it's some kind of problem, they probably had the cure for you as well.
I'm sure, yeah. First you diagnose and then you cure.
Yeah.
So I haven't told that before.
Huh.
Oh, well, you dodged a bullet. Thank goodness.
No kidding. Yeah.
Do they understand what, well, obviously they do not understand how this looks. And what it is, really. It's insidious. It's...
no, they're doing it for God. They're fixing people.
Well, to normal people, it looks bad. But, if you're in South Carolina going to, Podunk Baptist Church, it looks pretty good because it looks like you're fighting evil.
Yep. That's what they have in their heads. They're fighting evil, and they can fix you because God doesn't want you to be that way.
That's right. God doesn't make mistakes.
Yep.
Yeah. So except when he corrected the mistakes when he drowned everybody in the Great Flood. Doesn't anybody
Do you remember when Ned Flanders was pissed off because his wife got killed and he's screaming at God and he says, I did everything you told me to do. I even did the stuff that contradicts the other stuff.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, that's about right here.
Simpsons has the best writers.
Yeah. Well, they had. Not so great anymore. But back then they were really good. Well, Conan O'Brien used to write for them.
Do you know Julia Sweeney?
Yes.
I know of her, yes.
Yeah. So she was telling me that she wrote for The Simpsons, and I said, so are they all atheists? And she said, well, I tell you what, if you're not an atheist when you get there, you will be.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I can see that. But there's a few shows like that. Family Guy, Seth MacFarlane is a devout atheist, I would say.
Yeah.
It's So you could definitely see it in his new show, The Orville.
Yes.
Talking about religion dying in advanced societies. That's true, but
you'd think.
I certainly do enjoy that show. So you are going to stick around, Sheldon, for talking about some of this other junk that we've collected.
I'd be happy to if I can contribute.
Sure.
I will.
Oh yeah, you probably heard about some of this.
So hang on. First of all, I have a question, and I want you to know there's a comment in the Facebook the YouTube chat.
Sure.
If you don't mind me taking just a few more moments, Sheldon.
No.
Are you okay with that? Okay. You and I had a bit of a discussion about the legal status of it here in Canada, and I just assumed it was entirely illegal, but you enlightened me on that. No,
they're here too. They actually is funded through AHS, I think, some of these.
No way.
No, they got rid of that.
Yeah, they got rid of it. I think 2 years ago. 2 years ago it came out, so to speak.
I would have thought at the very least it would be, unless if illegal to do upon children under 18.
No. Hey, we still have publicly funded churches here. We don't even have separation of church and state, so.
Yeah.
Right.
Hey, again, you guys, you're in Calgary. You're in a safe zone. I mean,
come
on here.
It's like a little secular. Like literally, Sheldon, I live in a community where it's, people walk hand in hand, same-sex couples, and it's just, I'm just like, I'm really happy to live here
and do that. Yeah. You're going to get beat up. If you come to Red Deer and have people here are not very out.
I think you meant to say
better, but
when you said churches, I think you meant to say publicly funded religious.
Cool.
School systems.
Sorry.
Yes.
I'm terrible. I'll think one thing and say completely opposite.
We're trying to get rid of it.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's gonna be a tough haul, especially here.
The conversation's starting. People are actually.
It's starting, but also is the fight. I mean, my own mayor speaks against getting rid of the Catholic schools, so she's very much in favor of the Catholic schools. So this is our mayor here.
Well, we have a Muslim mayor in Calgary, so
totally secularist. Yeah.
No, it's awful when you get out of Calgary.
Yeah.
So Tyler posted that he wants to start a therapy group to cure homophobes, and then he says,
"Awesome, thanks, Tyler."
I'm on board.
Tyler Laguerre. We've all interacted with him. Sheldon, you don't know him, but we've crossed paths through our various podcasts and that kind of thing. And he also said he's pretty sure it's only Paul in the New Testament. I don't know what that means because I'm not that savvy on my.
I'm not a biblical scholar either, but let me look at my notes here and maybe I can enlighten him a little. I don't think it's just Paul, although Paul was a big old queen. Look up 1 Corinthians 6, 9 through 10, King James Version. So there's a few other areas as well, but 1 Corinthians, they cover it pretty well. The one he's thinking of is the one that most people use is Leviticus 18:22, which is, "Thou shalt not lie with mankind as with womankind. It is an abomination. They shall surely be put to death."
But women lie with men.
Well,
I guess they mean men shall not.
Because only men mattered back then.
Right.
My knee-jerk reaction is, who cares what the Bible says? But
of course.
There are a lot of people who do care, and so as long as they do, I guess we have to refer back to it. But it feels a little bit like talking about muggles and shit, I mean, or asking who's faster, the Flash or Superman. Like, I don't care. This is made up. But
I saw something really cute though. When marijuana became legalized in, I can't remember what state it was, but if a man lie with another man, they shall be stoned. All of a sudden made a bunch more sense.
There we go. Get stoned.
Context, right?
Yeah, it won't be long before marijuana is legal in Canada. So.
Canada. Yeah, they said June?
July 1st.
July 1st.
July. Okay. Yeah. Oh, yeah, but not Canada Day, apparently.
No, we could get your stuff before Canada Day, 3 days before.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
See?
Okay. Get your stuff now.
I, of course, being allergic to the smoke, I stress how much I prefer people to eat it or something instead.
I was going to say.
What does the smoke do to you that you're allergic?
It closes off my airways. I rash up and I get hives.
Oh, wow. I get anterograde amnesia.
Oh, goodness.
Like from one moment to the next, I don't know where I am. And
so
it sounds
that's
funny.
what scents do to me.
Oh,
That's what
awful.
perfume does to me.
Yeah, it's not funny at all. It actually makes you feel like you're losing your mind.
Oh, yeah, because you can't remember your own name.
Marijuana?
Yeah, I don't know where the hell I am one moment to the next that fast. So it's really horrible. So
Screwing
I can't
with your
use
hippocampus.
Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Huh.
Nope, scents do that to me, so I know how it is a bit. I can't even remember my own freaking name.
Wow. We have a lot of scent-free businesses here in the San Francisco Bay Area. Now you're not allowed to wear perfume or cologne.
And that's why. And finally, my workplace, after being there for 4 years, and them thinking I'm a complete idiot all the time, they finally got rid of this one person's office that was affecting me the most. And I kept trying to explain to people, I'm not like this at home. Like, you think I'm a complete idiot, but you got to get rid of that.
If I can't see you, I don't want to smell you.
Yeah,
I don't know why people can't learn to wear scent properly, but for some folks it doesn't matter, like for yourself perhaps.
Yeah, well, her whole office just reeked of the stuff. I don't know what the heck it was, but I couldn't go anywhere near there. I wouldn't be able to breathe either. So it was bad enough that it was affecting my memory and my day-to-day thought processes for the last 4 years. Now my friggin' my sinuses can finally heal. Like, today was the first day in 4 years I blew my nose without blood.
Oh.
So frustrating.
Yikes.
Well, thank you for sharing.
I'm mad. 4 years. Freaking 4 years.
Anyway, we got a few stories to look at. One you've probably heard about was the Muslim Barbie.
Yeah.
Barbie came out with you didn't hear about that? Oh.
No.
Okay, so Tyler, sorry,
Sheldon?
Yes, yeah. Tyler's the one in the chat.
Tyler's in the
Sorry. If I posted these in our Facebook chat amongst the four of us, so you have links to what we're going to talk about, just so you know. Yeah.
Oh, okay, great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got a National Post story. It's Mattel created a Barbie, a hijab wearing Barbie, and it's based on American fencer Ibthaj Muhammad, and yeah, we're not too happy about that. I mean, that if you want to me, I think the Iranian chess player Dorsa Derekshani, 19-year-old grandmaster, refused to wear the hijab, and so she was she ended up having to join the American Chess Federation because for some reason you have to wear a hijab while you're playing chess out in public. Or also there's also the 2016 gold medalist in the 100-meter hurdles, Delilah Muhammad, who also does not wear a hijab, and I think that seems to me to be much better role models for Muslim women than somebody wearing, almost, it's a stereotype now to wear a hijab, but to me it's an instrument of oppression. You're not allowed to go anywhere unless your hair is covered up. That doesn't sound very feminist to me.
I have mixed feelings about that because I want inclusiveness for people, and time, like, you need time to change to stop wearing these things and feeling free in a free country. But this will only, I think, get the racists flared up too, that, now they have this Barbie on top of everything else and they're taking over and everything else. So I have a lot of mixed feelings, and your point too, Randy. I mean, if you're going to take a symbol of oppression and then call it empowerment, it seems counterintuitive. Yeah, you want to be inclusive, but you also want, well, hijab is not exactly inclusivity. It's saying something about women that, that's actually also saying something about men, where, we can't help ourselves. We must force ourselves on women who don't cover their hair. I mean, it can be a break.
I'm sorry. I'm a little more controlled than that.
And my daughter heard at school from, someone who wears a hijab that they wear it so that they preserve themselves for their husband or whatever. So what does that say about all the women who don't cover their hair, like my daughter?
That's
how does that make her feel?
Oh, yeah. Well,
makes her feel like, oh, I'm such a whore for having my hair out then, right?
That was that tweet that Linda Sarsour sent out saying that the hijab is a symbol of modesty and something else. So I tweeted back. What's that?
Feminism?
No, not feminism. It's modesty and self-respect. That was what it was.
Okay.
So they're saying everybody else is immodest and has no self-respect. It's completely disgusting.
Yeah.
I've said it many, many times. It's this fetishizes.
Oh
my God.
Fetishizing.
Yes. Yeah. Fetishization of this modesty culture, right? And I don't like it.
Well, let me play devil's advocate for just a moment. I teach at a college where about a third of our students are Middle Eastern, and it's very common for us to have girls walking around wearing either a scarf or a full hijab, or some even wear a burqa. It's very uncommon, but some do. Okay. And of course, I respect my students all equally.
Absolutely.
Okay, not equally, but I'm just kidding. Depends on their
some might
grades.
need to listen better.
But I've had a lot of frank discussions in the 18 years or so that I've worked there. Not during class, of course. I teach psychology, not religious studies. But I had some students who said to me, "Well, what if you went to a country where women walked around bare-chested?" And I said, well, wouldn't bother me.
You're going to equate hair to breasts?
Exactly.
Well, it may not be a perfect analogy, but it did make me think. I thought, okay, well, if I'm in a culture that's different than mine, I would probably say, oh my God, aren't you concerned with how men will treat you if you're showing your breasts? Or that people will ogle you, or that they'll sexualize you? You should probably cover that up.
There are nudist colonies in
Europe
but they're colonies.
Such. Not entire cultures, though.
But if you walked down the street in Calgary with your top off and you're a woman, probably...
And everybody else did too, we probably wouldn't think anything of it. Thing is, if we fetishize something...
Yeah,
I think
if it's the culture, though, everybody...
We can kind of... I'm not saying that I'm for the oppression of women. Let's be clear.
You're trying to understand their point of view.
I also, one of the weaker arguments someone used was, well, what about nuns? They cover up too. And I thought, yeah, but that's a special sect. I mean, I hesitate to say they choose to go into that. I think there's family pressure there, but there's no law that says that you have to become a nun. Mm-hmm. And there's no one's going to stone you if you walk down the street not dressed as a nun. So that's a really weak argument. But it did give me pause, and I had to think to myself, okay, I guess I can better understand a culture that says women should be modest if I look at the way that we treat women. And we tell women, you have to be modest, too.
You have to cover up your breasts.
Right. And maybe they shouldn't have to. And really, I don't have a dog in that fight at all, trust me.
Exactly.
If they chose not to, they would be arrested in the United States.
It depends on where.
Yeah. And I was going to say, there's the issue of breastfeeding too, right?
Which in Canada,
breastfeeding should be a non-issue, but yet it seems to be an issue for some people.
Yeah.
So we're not exactly treating women equally either.
Yeah, it's true.
We're trying not to go backwards, though.
The hijab, that's kind of a two Coke argument, right? It's like,
I'm not justifying theirs. I'm just saying we can't really take the moral high ground too much, because we also have our own modesty laws.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there should be any moral laws. There should be none. There should be absolute zero. There has to be some imposition of on someone's rights in some manner, like murder, of course. You don't have to go at it from a moral perspective. You can say you've just taken away somebody's right to life. So laws that moralize are usually horrible laws because they're usually religious in nature, first of all. Mm-hmm. And so what happens if, being an atheist, I don't have to adhere to anybody's religious tenets. And I don't feel that I should have to. That's why I participate in Draw Muhammad Day, because I'm sorry. What do you mean I can't draw Muhammad, even though no one can anyway, because they don't know what he looks like. But these kind of laws have to go. And I think that this is why the law on banning marijuana is going. It's exactly why.
Yeah, but I mean, the example you brought up was, like murder, right? That's a moral law.
It also
It
also has
right?
Goes against pretty much everybody's morals, but we don't need it. We don't need to talk about morality.
Then what's the impetus behind banning murder?
I already said it. The right
You
to
don't wanna
life.
die.
You have taken away somebody's right to life.
Yeah, but that's a secular moral.
No.
Yes.
I hate that.
Taking away somebody's life is a moral question. Sheldon, weigh in here.
Have you seen the research at Yale University's Baby Lab, by chance?
No.
If you get a chance, go to YouTube and look up 60 Minutes Baby Lab, and you'll find the video. They do, in their Center for Infant Cognition is the actual name of this department, and they take babies as young as 3 months of age, and they do puppet shows for them in which puppets act well behaved or badly toward each other. And babies apparently are born with a sense of morality and justice.
Yeah,
and
some animals
amazing.
too, right?
It's very eye-opening, because so many people think that in order for you to have any sort of moral compass, you have to be born into the right religion and taught that God exists, and also the threat of God punishing you. And it turns out, no, evolution took care of that.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it happens in other, species as well. I mean, we're not the sole holder of it. I mean, we like to think so, but we're not.
Even worse than that, by the way, one of the reasons we have such a hard time getting rid of bigotry is because apparently bigotry is also natural.
Yeah, stick to your own kind.
Yeah,
I've said that before,
They show these puppets eating from little bowls of food after finding out what is the favorite food of the baby. So, for instance, if there's a Cheerios cereal or graham crackers, they'll offer them to the baby, and whichever one the baby chooses, they keep track of that, and then they show the puppets eating from those bowls, and the puppets are different colors. So when they show them up on the stage being treated well or being treated badly, the babies are okay with you treating the different puppet badly. In other words, that like graham crackers, they like Cheerios, that graham cracker eating bastard needs to get hurt. And these are 3-month-olds.
Yeah. Okay, so I have a story when I gave birth to my daughter, it turned out that I ended up sharing a room with a friend from high school. So it was really cool, right? And so she and I, a few months, they were about the age where one of them could sit up and the other was still, kind of crawling a little bit, whatever, right? So probably about 3 or 4 months. And when my friend brought her baby into my home, that baby took one look at us and just started crying, right? And my friend said, I'm sorry, but the only white person she's ever met before is her dad. And I'm just like, okay, no big deal, right? And I've also seen, dogs react badly to, I think it's just, I kind of, when people say racism is learned, I'm sure it can be enhanced, but I think it's just like this tribalistic thing, right?
Yeah, and the thing is, once we grow up and learn better, I think it can be unlearned.
Right.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
It can be focused. Xenophobia is what we're talking about here, fear of the other. And it doesn't take a whole lot of brain power to figure out how that would benefit a species. If you stick with those who are like you, you're less likely to be harmed. But if you venture outside of your group and you start entering an area where there's people who aren't like you, the danger is clear. And the people who did that died off and their shitty genes died with them. Mm-hmm. So what's left over? The ones who stick with their own. It only takes, a little bit of effort to make that into homophobia, misogyny, or racism, or any kind of bigotry. We don't teach people to hate. We teach them whom to hate.
That's a really nice way of expressing that. Yeah, yeah. Well said. Yeah.
It's kind of like the in Stephen Pinker's The Blank Slate. You have the machinery there to, make moral calculus, but it's just that you learn the boundaries. So
and that's why I'm mixed about the hijab. It keeps people separate from each other. It keeps people judging each other. Like, oh, you're showing your breasts comparatively to me by not covering your hair. I'm a better person because I cover mine. I'm more modest. And it keeps people separate. Like the separation of humans, we're never going to come together, it seems to me.
Yeah, I think my best argument when I was talking to this young man about the hijab, I said, why is it always the women? Like, women get turned on by you. Why don't they get to choose a random body part that you have to cover up for the rest of your life? And he said, no, that's not the way it works because.
Yeah, exactly.
Of course, it's
actually, I think that there is supposed to be some sort of, but there is supposed to be some sort of, modesty thing because on the side of men too, right?
Men spreading.
But obviously not. Yeah.
They're not trying to make half the population disappear under a piece of cloth.
Well, okay, so that was my next point. We're talking about the context here in North America of wearing the hijab, right? Where it's a choice, whereas in other countries this is not a choice, and that I guess is my take on it. Like it's those women who are forced to wear the hijab have no voice whatsoever to, correct people, I suppose, right? And those very few times that we do hear that voice, it's like, please stop, like with the, what was that, Wear Hijab Day with the, like one woman somehow anonymously spoke out and she's just like, please don't do this. It's so offensive and insulting to, those of us who are forced to wear this, right? So that's kind of where I'm coming from. But also, like we have freedom of choice here in North America. And I have no problem with people, choosing to wear it. I just...
Stop normalizing it so much.
Yeah.
Have a choice.
Not just normalizing, okay, but fetishizing it. Yeah. That's my problem. Yeah.
So screw you, Linda Sarsour. Man, you can't tell I have a great dislike for that woman.
Oh, yeah.
I wonder why.
Why are people listening to her instead of people like,
I don't get it. I don't understand
Ayan Hirsi Ali, Sarah Haydar, what the hell?
Did you hear what she said? Linda Sarsour was selected for this school in New York, an anti-Semitism committee. And I'm like, she said that she was unpopular because of the Jewish media.
Okay, then.
Sitting on a panel for discussing anti-Semitism.
Wow.
I couldn't believe my ears when I played that. I'm just like, you're kidding, right? You're making this too easy. Wow.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, but she claims not to be anti-Semitic. Come on. Whatever. Yeah.
May I make a quick observation? I think we might want to, Sheldon's coming in a little bit choppy, and I wonder if we want to just restart the call.
Sure. Yeah, we can do that.
Or Sheldon, hang up and we'll bring you back, or join us again, but you're coming in, your image is choppy, and I'm stepping away for like 2 minutes. So, excuse me.
Yeah, it is pretty choppy. Yeah, and I will. Putting her back in. Yeah. That was pretty bad.
No one called her on that?
Well, it's hardly in the news. I had to get this. I saw it on Twitter. I saw the actual video on Twitter, but when I had to go through the Daily Caller, and I hate the Daily Caller. I don't like rags. But I already knew that she had actually said this, so it was, I'll any port in a storm, right? So I used the Daily Caller's link to that, and it just amazed me when I heard that. I'm like, self-awareness is completely a total paucity.
How is it that these people are the talking heads? How is that?
And she's one of the leaders in the Women's March, and of course very responsible for that whole wear a hijab, try out a hijab. Yeah. So this no self-awareness in that woman. What else did I have? Oh, remember when we were talking about that whole thing, with, let's go back here, with Lindsay Shepherd, the fun times at Wilfrid Laurier University. I don't know if you heard about this, Sheldon. It was a teaching assistant who brought in a video in the discussion of pronouns and the current discussion revolving around these new ones. And it was a video with Jordan Peterson and somebody else from another university, like Brian Mattei or something like that, I think it was. And it was, like pronouns can't be a very fun topic for university students. And so she brought this video in to, let's have a discussion about this. And she was hauled in front of a committee for presenting this video. And she had the presence of mind to tape it, which,
thank God.
And it was, she was being raked over the coals because, these are young. She said, these are adults. They're 18, right? Yeah, but they're young adults. I'm like, they don't have the tools necessary to handle this. And I'm just like, wow, you have such an awful opinion
young
of
people, young adults.
This infantilizing of students has really got me concerned.
Yes, and that was
infantilizing of all adults, but especially college students. It's insulting on so many levels. It's insulting to that professor that she wouldn't be trusted to know how to introduce a topic like that to a class.
Yeah, well, the real reason she was hauled in front of this committee was because she didn't condemn the video. She presented it from a neutral perspective.
That's what you're supposed to do with your education.
That's what she said. That's what she said. She said that. Then if I condemn it, I wouldn't be neutral.
Right.
That's not what they wanted. And
no, because they're children, so we need to feed them the information ahead of time. Here's how you should think about this.
How did we get here? How did we get to this? Because when I was going to university, there was none of this at all.
This is liberalism turned inside out.
It is. It's not liberalism. It's something. It's anti-liberal, actually.
Well, it's as liberal as Trump is conservative.
Yeah.
Goldwater and before, they wouldn't even recognize the Republican Party right now. It was supposed to be about fiscal conservatism, that sort of thing, and now it seems to be about bigotry and. So yeah, in a way it's the ultimate liberalism. It's like, mollycoddling. I won't do it, and I'm tenured, so, I have to work less.
Do you serve milk and cookies in your class?
Yeah, crayons. Where's the Play-Doh?
Have a little nap time, bring out your mats and your pillows.
Well, I don't know where this was at this was happening. The article Ontario?
Wilfrid Laurier is in Ontario. Yeah, it's
well, I don't know about them, but my students wouldn't stand for me telling them what to think about something.
Good.
And that's exactly what her supervisor wanted. He wanted her to literally tell these students what to think, not how to think, what to think. And
there's comparisons with Nazism and stuff like
that.
Oh yeah,
went straight to Godwin's law.
Yeah.
You have to listen to the whole meeting. It is unbelievable. And this is one thing that you will notice a lot of in that. I'll just play this.
Something like that might have been seen as problematic, being like, okay, this is like a problematic idea. When you're bringing it into the context of the classroom, that can become problematic.
As a scholar, as someone with tutorial leaders, I would find it problematic. I find that problematic. I would find it problematic.
Frankly, some of the things that we talked about are a little bit problematic.
Do you know how I feel about that video? I think it's problematic.
You too.
I have come to despise that word because of these people. They have destroyed a wonderful, wonderful word.
Well, now that's problematic.
Yeah.
No, stop. It is. It's a wonderful
wonder what he meant.
Sorry?
What's that?
It makes you wonder what he meant by problematic. Problem for whom and in what way?
The parents have talked to me.
He didn't
It's
like
problematic.
it. He didn't like it.
I do have a theory on
Yeah.
that, and that is that when they use the word problematic in the way that they use it, they mean, I don't like it, but I really don't want to actually have to argue against any of the points.
Yep.
That's
Right.
it.
That's it.
Yeah.
It's a big red flag saying, I'm an idiot. I'm an idiot.
Yeah.
I
don't know how this guy got
over
his
and
job.
over. Well, this whole topic is amusing to me because back when I was learning communications, my communications teacher was you couldn't say they, their, or anything else. You had to use he, she.
That's right.
You had
Not
to,
anymore.
and she would mark it wrong if you didn't. And years later, I was working for the college, and she's still a teacher there. And she said finally she's given up because, well, of course, these issue with pronouns for LGBTQ. She's had to give up on the whole being
No,
anal
not
on he, she.
LGBTQ. T.
T, yeah.
T.
Sorry.
Okay.
To be precise, the
Yes,
T's.
T. Yeah, exactly.
So she's had to give up on marking that wrong because it becomes a whole social issue in class.
Can I?
Oh, please.
And not T, because sorry, not T, because people who are transgendered want to be with the
That's
they
exactly
want to be.
what I was going to say.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's
sorry.
my understanding.
Yeah.
This is going to sound super bigoted, but it's the truth, so it's not. I have many trans friends. Many.
Yeah. Okay. As soon as you preface something by saying that, I think I'm listening to Victoria Jackson.
And I won't say
I'm just
but.
oblivious.
I won't say but. I'll say and. As I forget, I think it was Christine who was saying, that this is not where this is coming from. My trans women friends know who they are. They're women, and so their pronoun they want is she.
Yeah.
And my trans male friends say, I'm a guy. Why wouldn't you say he or him? So where this is coming from is somewhere else. And
I was going to ask you, where the hell is this coming from? I just don't understand it.
Yes, enlighten me.
Pinker has something to say about this too, Steven Pinker, and he was talking in a talk I was watching the other day online about how language evolves and that sort of thing. And he said it's similar in some ways to what's happened with from Negro to colored to black to African, in our case, African American. And he said, but it's easier with nouns than it is with pronouns. So when you try to introduce new words to a vocabulary that are used that frequently as pronouns are, it's problematic. it creates.
You need to ring the bell, Randy.
Yeah, I should. Where's the bell there? 4.
And confusion.
There we go.
And once people get confused, they start getting angry, and then you get this backlash, unfortunately. So. It'll be interesting to see where this goes with it and whether I can handle it.
Yeah.
You and me both. Yeah.
Yeah, like I said earlier to you, Sheldon, in our earlier discussion, I don't have a problem with trying to be a nice person and refer to people as their gender pronouns, but I do think that to have it mandated, so in that particular way, I'm on Jordan Peterson's side, I guess, in the issue of free speech, but I disagree with the particular issue that he's chosen to enact that.
Yeah.
And do you follow him or anything like that? It's like he's religious and I'm quite sure he's a Jungian.
Oh.
Because he always refers to archetypes and stuff like that, right?
Oh, Lord.
So, yeah. That too. Yeah. That's an archetype.
Slightly better than a Freudian, but only barely.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, I've only recently become aware of him, and it's because of DJ Grothy. He posted a few things about him and it just said ew. He didn't.
It's not my cup of tea either.
Yeah. But I don't. Well, I was going to say I don't disrespect him, but I respect some of his opinions. Let's put it that way.
Sure. Because you're a critical thinker. You don't have to throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, he did quite a good lecture that I'd like to, it's called Clean Up Your Room, and he just essentially, says if you want to get your head in order, just have things around you organized. And I had no dispute with that. It seemed actually very, like a very good. I would have almost shared it, right? Certainly would like to have shared it with my daughter.
What do they say about stopped clocks?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's the day.
Yeah.
Do we want to talk about anything else? Is there anything on the plate?
Yeah, I'm just calling it up here. Hang on here. Oh, what do you call this? What's her name again?
Stefan's again?
Yeah.
Oh, we talked about that last week, though.
Yeah, so did I, but was there something new, or?
No, nothing new. This was a case of people not taking their children to the doctor, despite them being literally deathly ill.
Numerous.
Well,
and even a naturopath told them to.
Yeah, a naturopath had at least that much sense, and they still didn't take the child to the doctor till it was too late.
Yeah.
So they received. There's 2 cases that are like that, and they've received prison sentences, which is good.
In Alberta.
And one was new agey, a single new agey mother who I don't even think had ever taken her child to the doctor, had a home birth and all this kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, he didn't even have a birth certificate, I don't think.
Yeah,
he was off the grid. Yeah. People, I mean, the government
in Calgary. How do you be off the grid in Calgary? I don't get it.
Turns out I know somebody that knew that family. Hey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Scary.
I found out recently that I was never vaccinated.
I knew
It's
too.
not too late.
Yeah, go for it.
I had to get caught up for work, which I willingly did.
Yeah, I went and got vaccinated for the measles, mumps, rubella, within days. But my father died last year, and my mother died just a few months ago. And we were going through paperwork, and you can imagine the shock. I mean, here I am, an advocate of vaccinations, and I'm 50 years old. All of a sudden, I just went.
Wow.
Yeah, I even have yellow fever.
So
I've got the
I
fever
have
vax.
chickenpox, mumps, and I think that's it, which is amazing.
I've got hepatitis.
I had a disease, so I guess I'm immune to that. But yeah, I had the others. When I was a kid, I remember my mother was very much against the polio vaccine, and the reason was because her brother had polio as a kid. And somewhere along the way, the family story became, and who knows if it's apocryphal or if it actually happened, but some doctor supposedly said, well, it's a good thing he didn't get the vaccine because he would have been dead. Which makes no sense medically.
Well, there was that bad batch of that
because
the polio virus wasn't totally dead.
I mean, I'm sure they're dead now, but they actually did get polio from the polio vaccine.
Yeah.
This
was
in
the 50s, I bet, maybe the early.
Yeah, that's about right. It was very early. It was very early on, and
so that stuck in her head. So she was against us getting any kind of vaccines. I remember that as a kid, and then I remember my father, who didn't do much with us at all by himself. He just took orders from my mother, who was the matriarch.
Sounds good to me. Just kidding.
Scooped up the 4 of us, and we went off to a doctor's office, and they gave me a cup of something that tasted like bubble gum, and I was like, "Yeah, rock on." And now I look back on it, and that was the polio vaccine. He put his foot.
Okay.
Oh wow. Okay. Huh.
Yeah.
Well, he knew going forward that it was safer. Maybe.
I'm sorry. What?
Maybe he knew going forward it was safer.
Well, absolutely, yeah. I mean, that was his quiet way of having a protest, and he was like, "Get in the car. We're doing this."
Aw.
So yeah, and then he took orders again the next day. So
kept the peace.
And it was a great relationship. They lasted for decades.
What would Freud say about that?
Who cares?
Awesome.
He would say I would have had sex with her. That's what he'd say.
Yeah.
The Oedipus complex, yeah.
Yeah. Is there anything else?
Stony Nakota.
Oh, yeah, they're trying.
Yeah, they want to change the name of Calgary to something I can't pronounce.
This is a First Nations band that is trying to get Calgary renamed to something that is completely unpronounceable, and it would put the Welsh to shame.
Oh,
and they also wanted to rename Canmore as well to something.
Okay. Canmore, the Bow River, Mount Ellen, and dozens of other sites that they consider to be part of their territory.
Are they currently named after people that are offensive?
No, Calgary is not even a human.
Yeah, what the hell is Calgary anyway? I have no idea.
I don't know.
I don't know.
I just assumed it was a First Nations name because
so
many of our like say our highways,
Medicine Hat,
Saskatchewan.
There's tons of.
That's not exactly Old English.
They want to rename it to Wichita Oyade.
I can't even. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure you'd get used to it.
Elbow Town. Sure, we would.
I want to spell that.
It's like Schwarzenegger. I mean, if you can figure out how to say that, it's just exposure.
And
but
who's going to pay for all the changes of addresses for all the houses, businesses? Like that would be so. Have they considered the cost?
Yeah,
but
probably.
Their feelings.
It's more than an actually. I think it's more a protest sort of thing than an actual. Something they envision as a reality, like okay, so I'm not sure if Stony Trail was named after the Stoney Nakoda, but I just kind of presumed it was.
I'm sorry, but the word Stony doesn't seem to be very First Nationsy.
Well, but Stony, yeah, why not?
And there's Stony Plain, Alberta. But did you guys read what that name meant? Wichita Oyad, it means elbow town. So you'd name Calgary Elbow Town.
Well, yeah, because of the rivers, right?
The Elbow Town.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
Well, it's probably coming from a place of, pain. I mean,
for sure.
It's coming from people who feel like their land was taken from them, which, hey, listen, I'm not bashing Canada. We did that too. Mm-hmm. And people who want to be represented and they feel like they're not being represented. So hopefully someone will find a way to compromise with them and make them feel like they matter without disrupting business and making people not able to pronounce their own city that they live in.
Elbow Town. And it's not even a town, it's a city.
Can you imagine all the highway signs that would have to be changed? And, just start thinking of this, right? And Calgary is, what are we, 1.2 million or something like that, right? Mm-hmm. We've had the Olympics here. We've, it's not like we don't have a history. Yeah. So I would certainly be more than happy to rename things. Okay, so we had a mountain that apparently was, called Chinaman's Mountain or something, Chinaman's Peak or something.
Chinaman's Peak, yes, that's true.
Yeah. And we did change the name to, the proper name that honored the actual, I'm sorry, I can't remember the name of the man, but, so I think this is a good thing.
Which is why it was named Chinaman's Peak to begin with, because nobody could remember the guy's name.
Oh. Boy, make an effort.
Oh, dear.
Anything but Chinaman.
Oh. I'm more than happy to rename things and to
fine. We'll change the name at Nose Hill. Okay, we'll change it to Wichita Oyad. We'll call Nose Hill. Okay, we'll change that.
There's all kinds of things that we could, accommodate and change names for, but the entire city, I don't think is.
You mean like Pagan Trail?
Well, yeah, I was going to say Pagan Trail, Blackfoot Trail.
Yeah. We already have.
That's why I just assumed Crowchild Trail. I just assumed Stony Trail was an honor to the Stoney Nakoda people. Yeah. So
Deerfoot.
Yeah.
Another one.
Precisely. Yeah. Morley Trail. There's a Morley Trail.
Yeah. So they will honor it'd be great to honor the request a little more in a reality based.
But we do.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but I mean, changing the name of an entire city is
that's out. Get real. Let's. I mean,
Vancouver. Sorry, guys,
Vancouver was named after a Brit, wasn't he?
A Brito.
I think so. Yeah.
Say that with a British accent.
Sorry.
Vancouver.
Actually, that's actually a tough one. I don't think I can.
My guess would be that that they're smart enough to know that it's not going to go, but they're also smart enough to know it'll get a lot of press.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So probably a PR team said, let's ask for something really big like this, and then we'll use the door in the face technique, where they say no to the big thing, but they might offer something smaller.
I think you're precisely right.
Contrary to popular belief, there is such a thing as bad press. And I'm not sure this is
but
a good
bad press
thing.
is still good press, right?
No, I don't think so.
Negative attention is still attention.
It's attention, but it's attention of the type you might not
I
want.
don't think this is bad enough that it would make people, treat them any worse than they're already being treated.
Well, it's not going to improve things.
Knee-jerk reaction.
I just don't see it improving things, that's all.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, you're talking about them.
That's true.
Yeah, but look how I'm talking about them.
Right,
like,
but then the
give
next
me a
person
break.
will come along and maybe think about it and say, oh, who are these people and what do they want and how have they been treated in the past? And, a few Wikipedia articles later, you might actually get educated about what they've been through. I mean, Native people have been treated like shit for hundreds of years.
True.
Yeah, in Canada
here in the U.S., when they find out you've got any kind of Native American blood, the first thing the white people here start saying is, "Oh, yeah, the casinos."
Right.
Like,
it's up here too.
That makes up for 500 years of oppression. A couple of casinos. Are you out of your mind? And they don't even all have casinos. Silly.
Absolutely, yeah. And there's a huge, we had even under Harper, conservative, prime minister. We acknowledged what we had done as cultural genocide, right?
Yeah.
And in fact, some of, real genocide. And then you talk about the residential schools and, wow, the atrocities imposed.
We're steps ahead of us. The American government hasn't, the U.S. government hasn't done that at all. I mean, Trump just the other day was supposed to be honoring some Native Americans who were, speaking their native tongue to win the war. And he makes a Pocahontas joke.
Yeah.
And I thought, you suck up everything in your 4 years in office? Because you're well on your way. You can't even manage to be kind to some old men who are war heroes.
Did you ever see the handshake between Trump and Trudeau?
He does the same thing to everyone.
But Trudeau
was expecting it.
And you should take a look at it online. The video, he
totally
took it over and said, no, you're not doing that to me.
Kept it still. Like, no.
I wouldn't want to touch him, but if I had to, that's the tack.
Or decorum, wash your hands after.
There's no love lost between Trudeau and Trump, that's for sure.
I have to also give props to Trudeau. I saw his video the other day apologizing to the gay community.
Yes.
For their treatment. And, it brought the man to tears, which I understand isn't the first time he's been brought to tears by something when he's giving a speech.
Well, apologizing to First Nations as well. Yeah, it brought him to tears.
Yeah. I mean, it shows that it's heartfelt. Here, they would eat him alive, Hillary Clinton was brought to tears by some poor woman's plight when she was, I don't know, glad handing in a sandwich shop or something when she was running against Obama. And they just rigged her over the coals for it. They're just like, she's probably menopausal. Just Jesus. She can't even feel bad for some poor woman, and it brought tears to her eyes. So good
well,
for
the fact
him.
that she's a woman, I dare say there might have been some,
Absolutely.
I
know. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, Maya, excuse myself for 2 minutes. And Sheldon, do you know about the fact that our Pride Parade organizers? Yeah, because I'd like to hear your perspective on that. Did you? Well, now Vancouver. So Pride Calgary excluded uniformed officers in their parade because of the request of a small Facebook group of First Nations LGBTQ two-spirited people, and the broader LGBTQ community didn't agree with this. Even our mayor said something, right? That he, wasn't happy about it, and the police have essentially caved under pressure. But it's just not the contextual. It's just I thought it was not contextual. Like if I lived in certain cities where police brutality was an issue, which of course it is everywhere, but here it would.
Here not so much.
From what I understand, from my friends in the LGBTQ community, some of whom own businesses that have been, like Mike Gray, right? Had a bar and he was, felt a very close connection because they helped him and that kind of thing, right? So I I was kind of upset about that, and a lot of LGBTQ people were too.
Yeah.
And, I'm just curious what your take on that.
I can never understand the experience of a person of color in any walk of life, or the oppression that here African Americans feel. We had so many high-profile shootings of young black men by police, and so many of them look absolutely criminal. So I think I can understand on an intellectual level the impetus of that request that the police not be involved, but my position is that I like to take yes for an answer. And we don't have the luxury of turning away allies in this fight.
Right.
So if someone wants to be in your parade, let them. That's my position.
And you know what? What I also thought too was, given the history of residential schools, which have clear religious ties, why are they not disinviting, say Catholic, exactly, like you want to bring them in, right?
Yeah.
I
would be very shocked if they said yes.
Well, when it comes to religion,
Catholic,
I say let them march. Because if some Southern Baptist watches a Southern Baptist group march in the San Francisco Gay Pride Parade, he might go home and think, maybe I shouldn't be such a dick.
Yeah.
It can happen.
Exactly.
Well, we have...
no, you're an enemy forever. They'll remain enemies.
It just seems hypocritical to me to exclude police and not, religious organizations, or even like if you're not going to allow police to wear their uniform, because there are lots of LGBTQ police officers who are really proud of both, right, being
and they're dissing them.
But
what you should do is go talk to those First Nations people, and what someone should do is go talk to them and find out what they're
they wouldn't contact us. We tried to get them on.
Oh, really?
They really weren't. So
Hopefully someone will, and hopefully some sort of police liaison will be able to do that and listen to their concerns and start, the healing process, as they say.
I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that our liaison officer is also First Nations. And there was an event called Unity in Uniform that was developed, by a First Nations.
Parallel, yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't a. Well, it was a counter, but it was also, encouraging people to still support the, Pride Parade and that kind of thing. But so even a lot of First Nations people were not on board with this.
Oh, right. This was a small group.
And again, a couple of hundred people on Facebook. I didn't see any other web presence, right? And again, I just think it's really hypocritical to exclude the police if you're not also going to exclude other institutions that you've been oppressed by, like religious groups, right?
And you shouldn't be oppressing anyone.
Exactly.
I mean,
I disagree with both, but
My issue. So sorry. Go ahead.
I was just saying, let them all march. If they march with you, they're not marching against you.
Exactly. Right. That's what I think too. Yeah.
Yeah. The thing is, with the police, I just don't see how this improves relations at all. I mean, what's the gain? What is the play? I don't understand it. And
I think it's more a statement.
You can make that statement, but there are consequences. And if you're going to do that and harm relations between the gay community and police, what for? Why? It doesn't make sense.
Well, I think they were inspired by Black Lives Matter, so I suspect it was like a show of solidarity with other, cities around North America, right? But
if that's the case, I'm definitely against that decision.
Do you
think that if a group of police officers wanted to march with the Black Lives Matters group, they would turn them away?
That's an interesting point.
No, I'm not sure I understand the situation.
If there was a group of cops who said, yeah, this is really screwed up the way black people get treated by some police, and we think it's important that we show solidarity and march with you.
Oh, yeah, that happened in Dallas.
Yeah,
okay.
See, so I figured that probably would happen. They would say, yeah, come on, march with us, because that'll show solidarity and it'll show that other people agree with us.
Yeah.
Seems like the right tack.
It does, yeah. I guess there's like counter narratives and that kind of thing that Yeah. Or, I don't know.
Well,
A little more division than,
we've gone 90 minutes now, so I think we should probably wrap things up. And
okay. Sheldon, is there anything you want to promote? Yeah.
Well, yeah. I'm going to be giving my gay conversion therapy talk in February at Logical. So maybe if you have show notes, you can include a link.
Yes, I can do that.
It's in Los Angeles, California, and I forget the dates, unfortunately, but it's it's in February, and I'll be giving for the CFI conference, they gave us 30-minute slots, so I gave sort of a briefer version. So if any of your viewers, listeners out there have already seen me give that talk, I'll be giving the full 1-hour treatment this time at Logical.
Cool.
Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing, Sheldon. It's an interesting topic, gay conversion therapy, as tragic as it is.
That's correct. Yeah. Well, thanks for having me on.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining us. Yeah. Nice chatting with you. We'll talk again soon. Yeah.
Okay.
You've been listening to the Legion of Reason Diversion, coming to you from Alberta, Canada. If you enjoyed this episode, consider subscribing to our bi-weekly podcast on iTunes and other podcatchers. Even better, subscribe to our YouTube live sessions where you can join in on the discussion. Thanks for giving us a listen. Music and other sound effects under license from audioblocks.com.